Oh, sorry. You want me to go back on that? Okay. So we'll go back to one. Okay. Wheat and tares. So cockles, another name for the wheat and the tare, the weeds and the tares. So Jesus' parable, somebody suggests for them to pull up the weeds, but they are counseled by Jesus against this. Instead, let them grow together until the harvest. And I'm going to share in our talk how growing together isn't a bad thing. Yeah. So when we grow together, there are things that happen that are beneficial. The main reason that Jesus told them not to pull up the tares is they may pull up the wheat at the same time. Not that the tares are bad or good, because God created everything with a purpose. The devil changes the creation somewhat and causes trouble, but yeah, God has a reason for every weed in the garden. You realize that each of us have a work to do for the Lord. Yeah, we're all different. We have a work that is specifically just for us. And if we don't do it, there's a hole in the army of God where it's not being filled. So the most important thing for all of us to understand is we need to know where we have to stand. Now, if you feel like you're a weed sometimes in the wrong place and being picked on, sprayed to death or pulled up and rooted out, then don't worry. There's room for you in God's kingdom, because the weeds do a wonderful job if you understand them. That's what we're going to learn today. So the word translated as weeds or tares or cockle is the Greek word antheon. And so it can mean any type of weed. So in Christ's time, there were three major varieties of wheat, which is Ian corn, emmer, and spelt. The grains had a higher protein content and anti-nutrient content of the grain than today. So it was a better grain. Now, today we've got 25,000 species of wheat. Unbelievable. And probably counting. That was back in 2017. So, yeah, they tried to create disease resistance and higher yields. Well, usually if you play around with God's creation, you lose something. And when the gluten content in the wheat is too high, then it's an issue with human health. So that's one of the reasons why we have the spelt and the older type of wheat, as it doesn't create the problem of the ones that man has changed. Okay, so the emmer wheat is whole wheat, so means it doesn't have an aund on it. Let me see if I can get the picture up here. Oh, we come to that. We'll show you what that is in a minute. And so it actually has something taken off it. Now here's a spiritual lesson here. The principal difference between the wild and the domesticated forms is that the ripened seed head of the wild plant shatters and scatters the seed all over the ground. You get what happens? So when the wheat is fully ripe, the husk on the outside, or the shell on the outside of the seed, it actually dries out. And as it dries out, it becomes crumbly and it falls apart. And so if you knock that seed head, it's going to, all the seeds are going to fall out on the ground, right? And that's what nature wants. It wants to be able to reproduce its own kind. But with the domesticated or Irma wheat seeds, they stay intact. So you can hit them and they won't fall out until they really get dry and it's time for them to fall. So it's much easier to harvest the grain. You understand what's happening? So we've got the older type, the type that come from the original of wheat. It wants to scatter the seeds everywhere. And so the husk or the skin of the wheat, yes, as it dries out, it just falls out and it goes everywhere. So if you were harvesting that, it would be a mess. So you pick some, but lots of it would fall out on the ground so that it could regrow again. Whereas with a domesticated one, they've engineered them to stay intact so that they can go through a harvester, and then it would need more pressure on the actual shell of the wheat to get it out of the shell and into the ground. So as in the physical, so in the spiritual. We sometimes think that we can do better than God with our witnessing, and we go out there and we harvest, we spread the seed, and then when the harvest time comes, the type of seed that we have spread can be detrimental or it can be good to the harvest. If the seed is the husk and the shell of the wheat, or the seed that we're presenting to people, is so hard that it doesn't fall out. You get the idea? And so the seeds that would have come from one seed turning into 100 seeds wouldn't be spread abroad. Or we can go the other way. As we're going through the harvest, the seeds sown, if they're hard to harvest, like they stay in the shell, then you lose less of the seeds that you're garnering into your harvest. So you can go both ways here with the spiritual lesson. One is we sow a seed in someone's mind, a word or two, and that seed comes out of the mouth of the person to tell someone else. And if it is easy and easy to understand, that person will be sharing it with someone else, and someone else, and someone else will be shared along the way. And so many people then are able to have a harvest of our words and our deeds. Whereas if it's hard for them to understand, now the Pharisees had that issue, didn't they? They said, oh, let us interpret the Bible. It's too hard for you to understand. We'll hang on to it. Thank you. And a lot of people missed out on the real understanding of the Bible. So the spiritual lesson is keep it simple and one at a time. If we continue on and give so much information, the mind isn't able to grasp it all, then it's wasted all over the ground as well. So a spiritual lesson. Let's keep our eyes out for spiritual lessons, because God is in nature trying to reveal himself to us. What type of a harvest does he want? He wants 100-fold in his garner. He doesn't want them all spread over the ground. He wants everyone to come. And the other side, he wants us to share those and make it easy for those seeds to be planted into someone's mind and to grow and to continue on sharing with someone else and finding the fertile soil of the heart. Okay, so let's keep it simple. All right, these were some of the wheat varieties in the Near East that were domesticated, widely cultivated across the ancient world. And so still today in Europe and Asia, there's still some of the areas that have the Emmer wheat and the other two. So, okay, so we want the original, don't we? We want to have the original because they do the very best. Now, awnless wheat is the little beads on the I'll show you pictures of it in a minute, on the top of the spike, on the top of the seed head. You can see the seed head here in the picture has no hairs on it, right? There's nothing protruding up above it. And so these are awless, meaning it doesn't have any of the awns, and we'll see why. The picture of the bird here is a starling. If you know what a starling is, it's about the same size of a sparrow. And the sparrows as well in Christ's day were talked about in the Bible. They would go along and take the seeds out of the wheat. And the awless ones were very easy for them to come and eat. But when we get the ones that have the beards on them, as it's called, you can see these ones. They're awed, meaning they have these awns on them. And when the bird comes, it's finding it hard to get into the wheat. It's way of nature slowing down the birds eating all the wheat. And so you lose all your grain to the birds. So these are two different kinds of wheat that, again, here you can see the wheat heads, all these hairs coming off are actually for a reason. Everything in nature, there's a reason for it. And this comes back to the idea that every single one of us are born with a cause that we have to fulfill while we're here on this planet. Now, whichever way you want to go, each one of us, like this head of wheat, is closely knit together, and it needs to be that each of us have life in us to give to someone else. Now, the spiritual gifts that I speak of in Corinthians chapter 12, it's like the body, all knit together, and every part of the body has something to do in the body, and without it, there's a lack. So if we don't have eyes, we have a lack. If we don't have ears, we have a lack. If we don't have skin, there's a lack. So as a body working together as a church, we need to do our little bit. And you can see the hares here, they do their little bit. They stop the birds from eating all the wheat. Are we going to be one of them? Or are we going to be a wheat seed that gets ground and eaten and giving life in that way? So one protects against being destroyed, and the other one allows the person to live because of the food. So if we can remember that God has a specific work for each of us to do, when we see these awns on the wheat. Okay, ryegrass, or another word for it is darnel, and these are names that, well, the darnel is a Greek name, and of course ryegrass. If you've ever seen ryegrass, it's quite a pest. It's not good for anything other than the sheep and the goats and animals to eat when there's no good grass to eat. They don't give as much protein. They don't have as many minerals and trace elements in them. And so if you were to come and sow these seeds in amongst the wheat seeds, this would be a problem for the harvest. All these seeds are not nutritionally sound and don't need to be in with the wheat. And so it has to be sifted out. And they have ways of doing it. The hairs on these plants get caught on cloth very easily. So as they're running the wheat through a machine, they have something like Velcro, where the ryegrass and the darnel, the other grasses that you don't want in your wheat, can be taken out. But a big job, and better that the person didn't sow them in the patch of wheat. Okay. Let both grow to the harvest. Okay, here's an interesting thing I've found out, that there are weeds that grow amongst the wheat that are medicinal, and they don't look really good, but they are medicinal and needed. So what are we getting out of this idea? If there are weeds that are, let me see if I've got them. You already had that one. Weeds that are actually medicinal. So this isn't the slide either. Sorry, I'm a little behind on my presentation, putting it together. Had quite a busy week or two. But so yeah, the ones that we're going to talk about after we go through these is the corn cockle, which, as you see at the bottom of the list here, spurious, bastard, not legitimate. This is what a corn cockle is. It doesn't really fit. Now, we can be that in our walk with the Lord, or we can be genuine, and we can be not spurious. We can be sons and daughters of God. So with the idea of having a plant that's growing in amongst the wheat being something good for humanity, and it's the corn cockle. Here's some of the things in the corn cockle, the medicinal side of it. Okay, so we've got fluid retention, we've got cough, menstrual disorders, worms, and yellow skin, meaning jaundice, which is to do with the liver. Now, this plant is a real pest in the wheat, because it will look like, this is another idea. They actually researched and found that the corn cockle actually helps with inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. It's good for the skin, good for UV damage, speeds up wound healing. All these things come from the corn cockle, which was another weed that would have been planted easily into an enemy could have planted it into a field of wheat. And so here we have something good amongst the bad. Now, does God want us to be about bad people, or does he just want us to mingle with all the good people? He wants us to go out there where the lost are. And if there are people out there that are lost, then they need to be found. And if we have to go out amongst the field and find the weeds and the ones that seem to be the wrong thing, we need to be amongst them. But we need to be like this cockle, a healing balm in the midst of the wheat and the tares. So the other day, I had an issue. I was leaving Kempsey to go to Sydney to do some work down there for folk that I visit on a regular basis. And my car broke down. I got only 1.5 hours out of Kempsey, and it overheated. I stopped, called the NRMA. It took them 4 hours to get to me. And it was like midnight before I was actually getting into a motel. So I got in, I had a nice hot shower, went to bed and slept. In the morning I woke up and I went down to the car, and on my way I went past the office, and there was a man and a woman standing there at the desk, and when I looked in, they said good morning, and I walked in to say hello, to tell them what happened, and they were beaming. I couldn't get over the look on their face. And I told them, yeah, sorry, I come in late and that. And the guy says to me, you know, something really strange happened last night. We never answer the phone after 5 o'clock. It's on a sign on the door. Now, I seen that sign and I thought, well, maybe that's for other people. So I rang the number twice. And this young man answered the phone and said that he would put the key underneath the mat for me. And he's the one that's talking to me saying, I can't get it. It's just, we've never done it before. And I said to him, yeah, well, God does these things for me from time to time. And so we was able to share a little bit about what we're doing. And they said, oh, fine. And then we got out amongst our work. When I was leaving, I thought I have to give them something, because they gave me an extra half an hour to be in the room before asking me to leave. The lady at the desk and two of the workers that were changing the bed sheets and cleaning the rooms were sitting there out the front having a cigarette. And so I'd already given them one of them a comfrey plant, just to say thank you for the service that they gave, and for me to be able to introduce myself to what I do. And I spent about 10-15 minutes sharing what I was doing, and at the end of that, the lady accepted the comfrey plant and told me a little bit about herself. And her father was a gardener, because I asked them, so do you garden? She says, oh, not really, but my father does, and he's very, very good gardener. And then she told me that he had a cirrhosis of the liver and wasn't well. But he had that in his early days, probably from drinking and doing the wrong thing. And he'd gotten over it and stopped all those bad habits and got over it. And now it's come back. So I asked her, did he get the jab? And she said, yeah, 5 times. And I left it at that. Anyway, I turned to go away, and I went to help the guy put the trailer on the truck, and she went out to have a cigarette, right? So the 3 of them out there smoking a cigarette each. And I came back, and I just got a text message from Sri Lanka. One lady we're working with over there has had issues sleeping. And if anyone has an issue with sleeping, this might help. She has cancer, and it's actually spread throughout her whole body. Now it's in her liver. The doctors are saying, it's amazing that she's alive. So we asked her to do a wet sheet wrap and a clay wrap. Well, it wasn't supposed to be together, but they did it. They covered her with clay and then wrapped her up in a wet sheet. Instead of sleeping for 2 hours, because she'd already had a cancer in her bowel, and they've had to put a colostomy bag on her. she can't sleep for more than 2 hours because the bag fills up. The issue is they're eating too close to the bedtime, and then she moves the bowels and she wakes up, and there was, every 2 hours there was something that would wake her up. And so for some time now, she hasn't gotten proper sleep. Well, they sent me a picture and told me what had happened. She slept for 9 hours. So she was happy. She woke up 2 o'clock in the morning, went on down to the beach to wash off the mud and the clay, and sent the text message through. Well, at that moment, the idea of having wet sheet wraps, very good for smoking. And so I was able to share with them the text message that I got and the results that we had, and then told them this is very good for addictions. And then asked them whether they would like me to come back and show them how to do it. And tickle pink. So now I have another opening to go and share the health message with them. And so I'm happy, they're happy, but the truck driver's not happy because he's been trying to get a large, a large D-shackle off the trailer, the chain off the trailer to the tractor, and he couldn't fit it on. And so that gave me time to do everything I just told you I talked to them about. And so I then got up onto the truck and got my toolbox, and there was a big one in there, gave it to him, and we took off. Another divine appointment was coming. I ended up hopping in the truck, and he had the music on, rock and roll music, and it was a little loud for me to be able to talk to him. And so I said, Lord, what am I going to do? I need to break into his conversation with the rock and roll. And anyway, eventually I said to him, so have you lived here all your life? And of course he couldn't hear, so he had to turn the sound down. It happens to be that that young man hasn't been to church since he was little. His mother's a Seventh-day Adventist. So his name is Daniel. So I said to him, do you know about the prophecies of Daniel in the Bible? He says, yeah, Mum told us about it, but I don't understand what's going on. And so we were able to talk from there all the way to Kempsey, discussing world events and the end time prophecy. So we put Daniel on our prayer list. And one day, hopefully down in Wingham, we'll be able to meet him and his mum. So the idea of being a cocklebur in amongst the wheat, we need to be able to be healing plants in amongst the wheat. The wheat need help too, right? They need to have their ailments fixed. And you can be inside or outside the fence, but God is still there having healing of physical and spiritual. Okay, so cocklebur. So this is what it looks like. There's doesn't look real inviting, does it? Now, if you want to be a cocklebur or a wild edible that is successful in attracting people, it might not be something that you want to look like. But these little hairs on the cocklebur seed pod hook onto anything. And it's like Velcro. It just hangs in there and hangs in there. And it's a way of seed dispersal again. It was taken all over the place. So they're green like the middle one when they're just young. And by the time they start to dry out on the bottom corner there, they turn brown, and they're very hard, and they hurt when you tread on them if you got bare feet. Believe me. So these have been studied, and all those things that we talked about above, this plant is useful for. Has anyone seen them? Yeah, we have them in Australia. They're quite prevalent, especially in around the wheat and the barley and the oats areas. They grow very well in the larger crops. You seen this one? The same. This is the plant. This is how big it will grow, just as tall as the wheat, and if not taller. If it's a good season, then it'll be even taller than the wheat. But although it's growing against the wheat, it has these healing properties. Now, I'm not sure whether you'll ever have to use them, but it's good to know, because if you're out on the farm, you'll find them there. Usually, if it's in a farming area where there's the soil has been broken many times. All right, so there are many different types of, well, they're different names, but different types of burr. Remember, we were talking about the last time we were looking at the plant that grows in marshes and on the seaside. It doesn't matter where it is, it seems to adapt. The spiny-headed mat rush. And it gives lots of seeds and gives lots of food for the Aboriginals to be able to use it like wheat. Now we have the cockle burr on the other side of it, a weed that grows in amongst the wheat, as something that can be healing to sick people. Okay, so we go through them again. Fluid retention, cough, menstrual disorders, worms, and jaundice. So as we might think that we're not as good as we ought to be, like we were talking about righteousness by faith and how we fall and overcome and fall and overcome and fall and overcome. If we do it correctly, we are going to be a cockle, something that looks like a tear in the wheat. Doesn't quite look the same. I think I mentioned my visit to the Kenyan group. Yeah. Did I tell you about the last person that I seen? I was there from 8:30 till 9 o'clock at night at that church. We went through, they have sing-along in the afternoon, they have choir practice, they have 20-minute talks on different subjects, and then they have Bible memory verses they do as well. So it was quite a full-on day, and when it all finished at about 7, I had people coming and asking me for help with their conditions, and the last person that came was a Brazilian. Did I tell that part of the story? So Bill comes along. It's not his real name, it's his Australian name. Bill comes from Brazil, and he had an earring, a nose ring, an eyebrow ring, you name it. There were rings all over his face. He had dreadlocks, and he had his Brazilian costume on. It was bright orange, or a bright yellowy orange color. He came over after everybody had finished talking to me and said, so John, I want you to tell me something. I haven't got a successful answer. Why did God create sin? It's often people think that God created sin. And so I said, well, come over here and sit down. It's a bit of a story. You need to know from the beginning. So I shared with him the information from Patriarchs and Prophets, where it talks about the beginning of things and how that Lucifer fell and all of that. And he was so happy, so happy. He finally got it. He understood why sin could be allowed in the universe, and understood that God didn't make it, but he made a way out. And so the idea of the cockle, he looked like a cockle in amongst all the Adventists. He looked so different. And yet in his heart, he wanted to help people. So in our work with the folk there in the Kenyan church, this young man is coming along with his girlfriend, and they don't fit. Their clothing doesn't fit, and their expressions don't fit, but they're there because they want something better. Better battery. So let's look at the cockles and the weeds that come into the church, into communion with us, as something that could be very useful to be able to reach more people rather than pulling them up by the roots. We want them to change into fruitful bearing plants. And Bill's very keen. He can't wait for us to get back and continue on with the story. So I think that's about it on that one. The cocklebur, I haven't used it, so I'm not sure yet whether it's tea and it's more than likely made into a tea, because in India I had lots of those spiky seed pods that they use. They use the three-cornered jack. Who knows what a three-cornered jack is? Oh, it's a wicked thing. It's a seed that looks similar, but it's only got 3 spikes coming, 2 at the top and 1 at the side. So when it sits down, 1 spike is always up. And so you tread on one of those, and it is so painful. Down in Mildura, when I was down there, they were everywhere. And you had to wear good boots because they would go straight through a thong or a leather shoe or a weak shoe. But what they would use it for was the fluid retention. It's a diuretic in India, in their Ayurvedic medicine. So although I haven't used this one, I've used those ones. Over there, we had a case coming in with kidney failure, another one with kidney stones. We had gallbladder as well, and they use this to actually disperse them. It's amazing how they've over the years worked that out, that these plants are good for this and for that. So yeah, we can look on people and we can use their understanding of life to help somebody else, because once they're converted, they'll go and do a work that we won't do. Like, say, colporteuring. This is something the other day I was thinking, I haven't done colporteuring for so many years, haven't knocked door to door. And there's a quote of Ellen White's that says that in the last days, Adventists will be going door to door with their Bibles in their hands. And that's something that I'd like to get going again, because I love to meet people. It's a bit scary to start with. You don't know who's who and is who. Now that I have a bit more experience since when I first come to the church and done the colporteuring, I'm looking forward to going out and doing some colporteuring in the area where we're living. So God is good. We have a work to do, each one of us, and hopefully these lessons are going to be in the back of your mind and be able to be used when necessary. Now, if you're out and amongst the thorns and the thistles, you might have like people that look like that. You might get to their heart through taking away one of their complaints, or taking away some pain. And then we can turn a corn cockle into a very valuable herb that will heal all these different ailments. So if there's any questions, we can go from there.
Yes, thank you, Brother John. That was a short one this afternoon.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
Fine.
I'd like to tell you some stories though, if you want to hear what I've been doing and what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, God is really blessing. Even though even though my car broke down, it was two divine appointments which I never would have had if it didn't break down.
Mm.
And I'm thinking that it's not such a hard fix to fix it up. So yeah, God is so merciful. We make mistakes and fall, but yeah, so if you like to listen on.
Before you go, you mentioned about ryegrass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't touch it much. You didn't touch on it very much, because like when I look at ryegrass fiber might promote the growth of activity of healthy bacteria in the gut. So is ryegrass and corn cockle similar?
No, it actually, I think I had a picture of ryegrass in there. Let me see. So the one on the left, well, these are all ryegrass, right? So they're not high in protein, and the seeds are not high in oil. And so as a farmer, you wouldn't want it on your property unless it was the only thing that grew there. You'd want to be replacing it with something like buckwheat or another grain that would actually bring nutrition to the soil. But yes, it's another grass that can be used. But rye and ryegrass are different.
Okay.
Rye has more, it's a bigger seed and a stronger plant. So
Right.
I probably should have gotten up some information on that as well. And that's everywhere. Have you seen ryegrass at all? This looking grass? In the bush even it will grow. That's why the farmers don't really see it as anything beneficial. But again, it has all those properties that, a few properties of things that can be used.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not usually used in herbal medicine, whereas the cocklebur is more something that people use.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, because I was a bit confused between rye flour, like the
Yes.
rye and the ryegrass, so I was not too sure.
Yeah, so this is grass. It isn't a grain.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So the seed is smaller. It looks the same. That's why they call it ryegrass. Like rye looks something very similar to this, bigger, but very similar. And yeah, it's not as valuable. It's not a grain, so it doesn't have enough in it to warrant. Remember we were talking last time about the mat rush,
Yeah.
and then there are the other rushes. The seeds were even smaller, and so they weren't. You probably could get these, but you'd be all day getting even a small amount of the seeds, and they wouldn't have the protein levels that you would get if you were going for the rye or the grains. A bit like the mat rush and the swamp rush, or the what was the other one? One with the three heads on it. So the in all of nature, you have the better and not so good, and the ones that really they're only there to keep the shade on the ground and to keep the moisture going into the ground. Because if you've got roots going into the ground, then you'll have water going in. It's breaking up the soil and allowing the water in. So God has made these grasses to be able to survive wet and dry and hot and cold, so that the ground can be covered all through winter and all through summer. And that's basically what the ryegrass is for, or the darnel. But you can see how it could be taken, especially the middle picture there. You can see how it could be taken as wheat until it gets to this stage.
Yeah. So if we have a ryegrass in a community or in a church community, what do we do?
we allow them to do their job, which is to stop the sun from parching the soil. And yeah, when you can cut it down and use it as mulch. It's not as good as lucerne hay, which has deep roots and lots of nutrition. The best mulch is the lucerne hay, whereas with this one, you'd have to have a lot of it, and it's really only giving you fiber and shade from the sun, not the mineral content.
You know, I do understand that when you say that the tares have got some kind of benefit, they have some benefits, right? Even being among the wheat. But the Bible says that while men slept, that the devil come and sow the tares. So if it's a plant that is being sown by the devil, how can there be any benefit?
Okay, so this is a double-edged sword on the devil himself.
Yeah.
He goes and shares. We were talking about this. Anne and I were talking about this. The idea he sows all this badness, and then God puts a healing property in what he's sown and gives the opportunity for the person to be turned around and away from that condition. But for instance, nicotine. Everybody, you wouldn't take nicotine, would you? It's something that the devil has sown in amongst the communities of the world, and something that is really looked on as bad. But if you have a look at nicotine receptors in the body, they're numerous. They're all the way through the body. Now, why would God have nicotine receptors if it was bad? Well, it's the amount. And so in most of the vegetables, we have nicotine. And the nicotine is a stimulant, right? Do we need to be stimulated at all? The body needs to have stimulation. And so it's when they add other chemicals to the soil and to the nicotine in the cigarette, even the paper, 4,000 different chemicals they put into a cigarette so that it burns slow, that it tastes good. I don't know how they get that saying it's tasting good, but tastes good. It gives the pleasure as it's going in and out of the body because it has 4,000 different chemicals. So the nicotine is only one of those, and it is a stimulant, but a mild one. So they have to do all this other stuff to make it so addictive that the people have to have it every few minutes. And so God has, the devil's taken something good and made it bad. You get what I mean?
I've got a thought on that too, Brother John. We know that when God made the world, it was all perfect and good.
Mm.
And of course, the fall came, and a lot of these curses came with the fall, I believe. You know, they're looking at snake venom, and they're saying it's actually beneficial for the human body without the venom in it, without the poison, toxin. So snake venom, they're actually really looking at it. But, you know, everything was good. Everything was good. And the curse came and disrupted everything. But I understand they put snake venom in the vaccination, if you can call it a vaccination, the poison jab. They've actually
Yeah.
put snake toxin in it, and it's got the same symptoms, as snake venom, because there's pericarditis and myocarditis, swelling of the heart,
Mm.
and blood clotting. These are similar to snake bite venom.
Turn the light.
So they
Yes.
say nicotine is actually good to get rid of that snake venom. Yeah, it's a
Because
cure.
it blocks the receptor sites in the nicotine receptors in the body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think, Brother Michael, I think what he's probably trying to say is that Dr. Artis, which probably some of you guys may know, he said that if you use nicotine patches, that the nicotine patches, if we put them on our bodies, that it will actually go through into the body and actually help release the spike protein from out of the body, which are lodged on the nicotine receptors.
Mm.
That's
Interesting, isn't
a
it?
quote from Dr. Artis. So yeah.
Yeah. So what they've done is taken the DNA part of the nicotine, and they've taken off just some of the off the snake venom, and they've just manipulated the whole thing so it wouldn't kill you straight away. And so when they put that into the jab, then it's going to have the specific effect that they wanted. And so that would be constricting the heart, so making it hard to breathe, and that's how the snake kills someone, or whatever other way that, like bleeding, causing hemorrhages inside the body. And yeah, so it's an interesting thing that they can do now, is to take parts of the DNA apart and put it in some other DNA, which causes illness and stress on humanity. So it's not good. But yeah, we get nicotine in vegetables, so it's not a bad thing in itself. It has that we need to have stimulating things, but it's not addictive. That's the thing, that it's in small amounts in the plant world.
You know, brother, they when someone has a heart attack, they find cholesterol in the heart. You know, the HDL, the bad one. Oh, no, actually, I think it's the LDL, isn't it? The LDL is the good one, and that's the cholesterol they find around the heart of a heart attack victim. So it's there for a purpose. It's actually protecting the heart.
It's
It's
right.
the HDL that's doing the damage. So cholesterol in itself isn't bad either. So everything they say about our human body, which they don't know much about, because God has created us, God shows us, He shows us these things, and everything is not all bad, like you were saying before. You know, we need to study these things because they benefit us.
Yes.
Mm.
So,
Hey, John,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, John. I just wanted to ask you a question on a health question. I'm basically being diagnosed to be having an autoimmune disorder, which has caused an issue with my nervous system. And but what I was going to say is that I'm doing a stool test on Monday, which has taken me a couple of weeks to prepare for. But after that test on Monday, I was wanting to do a parasite cleanse. I'm just wondering if there's any recommendations for a parasite cleanse that's fairly effective, and for how long, you know what I mean, as well too. If there's anything, and for the duration.
Yeah, there's yeah, without having, looking at you and asking a lot more questions, it's hard to actually say, because
Okay.
parasite cleansing is pretty hard on the body. You need to be built up before you actually go through one, so that you don't do too much damage. Because to kill the parasites, you need something quite potent. Diatomaceous earth is one of the things that is more inert. It won't hurt the body, but when the parasites eat the diatomaceous earth, it cuts like glass inside them, and they die. So if you can look into diatomaceous earth.
Yep, I've done that for an extensive period of time, actually. I've done it for like probably 2 months at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you you've had tests afterwards, and it's the parasite's still there?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know, but about the parasites, because I have got the stool test is not until Monday, and it'll probably could take 2 weeks for me to get the results of the stool test.
Yeah.
Because see, I've actually got leaky gut. I got leaky gut. I got a blood test from ImmuPro from out of Germany, and they tested me on 270 food products, and it came back with 30 of them creating inflammation in my gut. And I've been experiencing some pretty ordinary experiences from some of these foods that are really quite inflammatory toward me. Yeah, it's been not a very good experience, but anyway, now I know, and I've cut them out completely just recently. So yeah, I've cut them out now that I know. I sort of had a bit of an idea, but they actually identified a couple of others that I really had no idea about. I'm like, oh goodness. But there's 30 of them, so more than 10% I'm actually susceptible to.
Right.
Yeah.
So have
but
you used slippery elm at all?
Yeah, I've used that previously. I haven't used it recently. I just thought there might have been some concoction to be able to help with the parasites. That's all. Just because I just wasn't 100% sure if I've actually done a parasite cleanse properly, or
Well,
what I
it'll
can
come
do.
out in the stool. You'll find out it'll come out in the stools.
Yeah, I suppose if I was to stop and take the time to pull it apart and have a look, I probably would find it, but I've never really looked at it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
yeah.
you might not see them. You might need a microscope to see them. But yeah, they can be big, and you can see them. As a colonic irrigationist there for some time, we've seen some wild looking things coming out of people. It's amazing. And some of the larger parasites would fall apart through the program, and we get these big flaps of what look like skin coming through the colonic machine, right down to very small ones that look like mung bean sprout, about that size. But it wasn't a mung bean sprout, it was a little critter that had legs and the whole bit. So yeah.
What about wormwood?
Yeah, wormwood's, it works, yeah. It's a very strong herb, so you got to be careful with that. You don't want to knock out everything. And yeah, you need to be under someone's supervision, to keep an eye on you. The concept of getting your minerals and trace elements up, the body will take care of these things if you're eating the right type of food. Now, foods that you're getting from the store, do you have your own garden?
Yeah, I do. But one of the things in my garden, which I was eating a lot of actually turns out, which is kale. I can't eat kale. I can't even eat carrot. And anybody who knows anything about juicing knows the consequences of that. So both of those are inflammatory in my gut, and so Yeah,
So-
so I've got some stuff, but I'm sick as well too, and I really haven't been able to get out in the garden, to be honest with you, because I just haven't got the mobility.
You haven't got energy, right?
Yeah, the
Oh,
energy. Yeah, I've got fatigue and all that.
I've been mixing papaya seeds with lemon zest and cilantro. That's the parasites hate it, and they hate pumpkin
Yeah.
seeds as well, brother. Pumpkin seeds and garlic.
Yeah.
They hate these things. A lot of foods that drive out parasites. My son got one in Bali. He thought it would go away after a couple of days, but it persisted. So his wife rang a doctor, and he come around. And I think they know how to deal with these parasites because they deal with them every day, no doubt. And they gave him some antibiotics and cleared it up. But a lot of
Worm
people are coming
tablets,
back.
yeah.
A lot of people are coming back from Bali with parasites from these third world countries, and they're picking them up.
Well,
I
my
just got back
problem
from
was
getting
that I was actually in Kenya last year, and this autoimmune disease has come on me realistically since I've come back from Kenya. It wasn't only probably a few months after I got back from Kenya, and then I ended up getting hit with this autoimmune. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they thought it was motor neuron disease to start off with, because that's the effects of it on my hand. But yeah, praise God, we don't believe it's that, but the autoimmune is what it's acting like anyway.
Let's hope it's a negative. It's not a positive for you, brother. Keep your
Yeah,
prayer.
I'm pretty confident about it. Well, one neurologist has already said that it's multifocal motor neuropathy. But I've got another neurologist appointment on the 6th of August, and she's a specialist in motor neuron disease, and so she'll confirm this other neurologist's beliefs anyway. So, but it's acting like it. I've only got one problem. My main problem is on one arm. The rest of my body isn't too bad, you know what I mean? But yeah, it feels like my whole arm is numb, and it's just. But the fatigue side of it is the ordinary part of it.
Yeah.
They're just that's the hard part. The
So-
cognitive decline.
So with the juicing, I've kind of only saved that for those that can't really chew, because the fibers help to keep the bowel clean, gets rid of the parasites as well. So if you could get onto green smoothies,
Yeah.
Brother John, do you think papaya seed can people can get rid of parasite?
you have to chew them.
Yeah, chew them.
Yeah, chew them thoroughly, and yeah, that will help.
Which seed, sorry, sister?
Because here in Mauritius we use papaya seed.
Yeah, I've been using
Papaya?
them too. Yeah.
Yeah, papaya seed.
Oh, yeah.
But with them, they may be a little bit rough on his colon there, if it's inflamed. That's why it will work, but it could upset some of the inflammation in his colon and his small intestines. And it's the same with all the herbs and all the natural stuff, like with the chewing of the pumpkin seeds. That's wonderful. If the parasite starts eating them, it cuts them inside, and that's how you can kill them. But if you're giving it to someone that has inflammation in the GI tract, then it could irritate that as well. And then they won't do it. And then, they will think that you've given them something that made it worse. So, and that's where the smoothie even can happen. You got to really chew your food well. How long do you spend eating your food? How long do you take for
when I was
breakfast?
a young man, when I was younger, I used to chew my food, you know what I mean, like as if a cow would chew their cud, but I've sort of changed my eating habit. I try to chew it for a reasonable amount of time, but I probably would be guilty of not chewing it enough.
Yeah, because those big pieces will irritate the lining of your gut as well. So that's why I was saying the slippery elm.
Yeah.
Just to
Okay.
to reduce the inflammation. Anything that's going to change the inflammation, and then you'll be able to take the papaya seeds. I used to take a tablespoon of papaya seeds, one that I would chew and one that I didn't chew while I was in India for the parasites. And yeah, I didn't get sick the whole year. So, and as far as I know, I didn't bring any home. So papaya seeds work, and so do pumpkin seeds, but with an inflamed bowel or small intestine, whichever it is, it's going to cause a bit of pain as well.
And what about the damage these parasites leave behind? You know, do they scar the lining of the veins? You know, that cholesterol can stick to the veins. Is that the damage that parasites do? Even though they're being killed, they do damage to the body, don't they?
Yeah, if they're in the circulatory system, like with the veins and the arteries, yeah, that's a different thing. You can't chew anything or take anything that will get to them because they're on the inside, not on the outside of the GI tract. So there are other ways you can do it. There's fever baths and hot treatments, which will knock them out as well, but they're very severe as well. Like a fever bath would need to be at least 40 degrees. Hunt them out. There's other ways. In the old days, what they would do, if the case was so bad, they would get the person to sit over fresh milk, like squat down as if they're going to the toilet, and then the worm or the parasite would come out for the milk after 1 or 2 days of fast. They'll be looking for something to eat, and yeah, you got to grab it before it goes back in. So there are lots of different ways that people have done and been successful with it. But yeah, we just got to consider the condition of the body. Now, acid alkaline, do you know anything about that?
No, not at all.
All right. So if the body's too acid, of course, it's going to damage the body. Acid burns, and so it's destructive in the body. In its rightful place, it does a good job. It helps to break down food. It helps to have the chemical reactions necessary through the body.
I've been plant-based for 12 years or more. Like, you know, I do a urine test, and first thing in the morning, it's probably about 6. 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours after a meal, it's sitting at 6.5. So,
all right. So you're fine with that. You can see how it's going. That's good. But chewing your food is probably just the idea of it. It will cause problems by not chewing it properly in your colon, and that causes the inflammation. Just trying to find out where the inflammation's coming from. Are you in a stressful job or relationship?
well, definitely with the job. I have been through a lot of stress with the job. I have been through a lot of stress with my job for years. I've been working, you know, with high behaviours of concern with people with disabilities, and I think that's what has contributed to it. So yeah, so the stress has been a problem for me. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I've had a bit of acid problem with my stomach as well. My doctor, because the acid ash is left behind and does a lot of body reacts to it. But my doctor said that it was stress, and I said to him, I don't stress. He said, well, you go on holiday soon and you're stressing about, you know, cancelling your holiday and things like that. Well, maybe I was stressing unbeknownst to me, you know.
Yeah.
But I've been taking not the bicarb of soda they sell in the chemist, but the natural one, and it's seemed to help a lot. It's 100% alkaline, and you know, even carrot juice and celery juice, 100% alkaline, and we need to get the acid out of our body. It's no problem with you know, acid in the gut, but if we ever get over excess of it, I think it could cause problems, because I did have burning in my stomach, you know, and I think that was over excess of acid. But Barbara O'Neill says she's never met anyone who's had an over acidic gut sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Like the stomach acids are not that strong at all. You can put your hand in and it won't eat your hand away. People have a wrong concept of the acid in the stomach as being really, really, it takes 3-4 hours to actually work on the proteins, and it's not broken down there. It's broken down in the mouth. So
Mm.
yeah, you've got to chew it well so that it can be broken down in this weak solution in the stomach. So an over acid stomach, yeah, the body doesn't do that sort of thing.
Mm.
The stress, though, can build up acid in the body, cause you to have problems with your stomach.
Yeah, the brain and the stomach are so interacted, aren't they?
Yes.
They actually say the stomach has got a small brain.
Yeah.
It's so closely related.
So yeah, I just encourage you to chew your food thoroughly. I mean, really well. And
You know,
yeah,
Dr. Young, Robert Young's got a product called Four Salts, which is spelled PHOURSA, then salts. And basically it's all the primary minerals that we need, and it creates alkalinity
yeah.
in our body. Is that useful? You know, not just do it on a daily basis, because he wants to try and drive your pH level, you know what I mean? He talks about urines, he wants to get it like up above 8. You know what
Whoa,
I mean? Yeah, I know, which is not normal, you know what I mean? But I
no.
just wondered just even about intermittent use of those salts might be handy, just like what Brother Michael's been talking about.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you're not growing your own food and you're depending on the food from the factory, even the vegetables and the fruit and that, the Brix levels are so low, meaning the mineral levels in them are so low that you're not going to do anything for your condition. You'll be a vegetarian for years and not get all the vitamins and minerals and trace elements and all the things that are necessary to have a balanced body. So on the farm, we're trying to get the mineral balance right, so that when you come, you eat our food and you get well because of the food has all the minerals and trace elements in it. Now, in the area where we're at, God has taken us to a place that gold and silver and precious stones and you name it, all the different minerals are up there. So the soil has it in there. We just need to be able to get it out. So the right microbes and all that. So we're working at having a high Brix level food that when you come, you get, and the healing will take place just as long as you're chewing your food and you're going to bed on time. If you're not, we'll put you in a wet sheet wrap or do a massage or do something to get you into a routine of sleep. And of course, we're sharing with the people constantly that you need to pray. If you're stressing about anything, don't tell anyone else, because that could be an issue that you don't want to face later on in your friendship. If you're having issues, just give it to the Lord and give it to him and just keep giving it to him until you're in the habit of taking everything to God.
Yeah.
His promises.
Well, yeah. No, I was just going to say, like, when I work, I mean, I work on my knees. I'm always in prayer constantly. So morning and night, and even on the job. So, yeah. So when I was working with those really high behavioral guys, I was constantly in prayer. God was wrought miracles around me, but it was still stressful. There were a lot of miracles. There were a lot of things that a lot of people who I work with couldn't explain why things, because I worked in houses where I was the only person who was never attacked, the only one.
Yeah.
So God is with me, but it's still, so I've been in a very difficult situation, but I'm still working on my knees.
Yeah, good on you. Good on you.
Praise God.
Yeah, so it may be just the the simplest things, chewing your food, without talking to you about personal things. There's probably other things there as well. But yeah, if we can get a balance in the soil and into the food and you're eating it, then you're not only getting your mineral balanced, you'll have all the other things in life will balance out as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think there was a post on our group, on our health group, regarding parasite, and there were quite a lot of different herbs that they suggested, and one of them were black walnut,
Yeah.
used along with garlic cloves, and Oregon grapefruit and wormwood is an excellent remedy for parasite and worm infection. It says, I have used this herbal blend for many years for many types of parasitic infection. This remedy will kill even the eggs, larvae, and adult worms and parasite. I don't know if it was Brother Neil who put this up. I didn't put it up. I didn't take note of that. But
Yeah, they're all very good herbs, and they do work. Why I'm being cautious is the inflammation thing. If we can get the inflammation down, then the stomach won't overreact to it, and he won't feel so bad, and he'll be able to take the full dose. Or
but maybe we can
occasionally.
take this together with the slippery Slipperyam is going to coat your lining and it's going to reduce the inflammation, right?
Yes.
Mm.
But it hasn't worked for him, he's saying. So there's some other underlying cause that needs to be addressed first. That's how I would look at it.
How long? So what would the frequency be of using slippery elm? How many times a day, and for how long do you think, though?
Well, of course, as I'm saying, we probably need to find out more about you to
Oh,
see the reasons for that not working, because normally how long you took it, you said 2 or 3 months?
yeah, I took it on and off. You know what I mean? I probably didn't totally stick with it for any real long period of time because I was probably just toying with it more so than being serious with it without having any real understanding of a protocol that goes along with it.
Right.
You know, so
So yeah, if you can stick with it for a few weeks to a couple of months, there's food that, like, the body assimilates nutrition from it. So it's not a drug, if you know what I mean. It's not going to hurt you at all. Anybody, even babies, they've given slippery elm to, and it doesn't hurt them. It just helps to soothe the lining of the GI tract, and even helps with lung complaints as well. So
okay.
yeah, I'd give it a good go, and then you can, once the inflammation is down, you can take all those good herbs. Like garlic will burn if it's if you've already got inflammation. It might burn the spots that are inflamed, and then the patient then won't take it because it was, you know, too
Right.
hard. Yeah, the reactions were too bad.
Yeah,
It's interesting. You're right, brother. Keep going.
I was just going to say about slippery elm. I made sure I got plenty of water after it. It's very thick, goes thick. But I was talking to a naturopath, Brother Wyman, and she also said probiotics. Double up on the probiotics.
Yeah,
It's good to get those probiotics in as well. Yeah.
Yeah, especially first thing in the morning too, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like, for me, I haven't been able to touch probiotics because I got to prepare myself for the stool flora test. You know what I mean? So they want you to stop everything. And right now I'm
yeah,
cold turkey on everything. I don't take no supplements right now for the next 3 days.
right. Yeah,
Right.
that's fair enough. Because they
Yeah.
want to see the real thing, yeah, what's really happening. It'll be like us. That's why I'm saying take that slippery elm first before we do anything else, because we need to know a lot more about you and what you're doing and your mindset and the
Actually,
whole, yeah.
Actually, scientist Bob had a remedy. He said to take golden seal. He said to take 20 tablets a day for 10 days of golden seal. So, you know, probably, you know, 5 tablets 4 times a day, and 20 tablets a day over 10 days. you know, so that's 200 tablets in a 10-day period. And he reckons it'll knock out parasites.
It's good. Golden Seal's excellent, excellent, excellent. Very strong, much stronger than turmeric, because in the same family. Yeah.
If you want to get rid of parasites in your bloodstream, just take the Beck Zappa protocol. Knocks them all off in a couple of days. Half an
Take a
hour.
lot of what? Sorry.
You want to get rid of
So-
every parasite in your bloodstream, you just take the Robert Beck protocol with his Zappa and half an hour a day for 2 days. If you want to be certain, do it for a week, and every one parasite will be gone out of your bloodstream. Live blood analysis will show it too.
What,
Have you
Robert Beck?
Yeah, Robert Beck, his Zappa. Don't bother with the colloidal silver unless you're really into it. That he prescribes as well with it. And then there's the magnetic pulsing system to get rid of the parasites in certain organs if they're harbored in there, outside of the bloodstream to reach. But yeah, it's very simple. Just a biphasic, tiny 2-volt electric shock goes into the bloodstream over the artery of the wrist. The entire bloodstream circulates within 9 minutes. So over the half an hour, basically 3 times plus, that blood is treated with that tiny shock. The parasites, unfortunately, have one slight difference than our blood cells. They need only the tiniest little electric shock for their outer walls to shatter. So they actually break into debris when they get a 2-volt. We can touch a 2-volt battery end to end with our finger. We don't even feel anything because of the resistance. But they die just like that. But it has to be a biphasic current. And yeah, it's very simple. It's easy. And you don't have to switch it on so high that it is bouncing or pulsing on your wrist that it's painful, just enough for this tiny little pulse. That's it.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a few
Thanks,
things to
Ben.
try. You know, I'm going to try ivermectin myself. My sister takes it. She's just got me a big jar of it. But ivermectin was originally made for humans. It wasn't a parasitic killer for animals at all. It wasn't bring out for that.
Mm,
You know, when you do the research on ivermectin, it actually was made for humans.
yeah.
So that will knock parasites. That'll knock them rotten. That will. I haven't tried it, but I'm going to. My sister takes 2 mil twice a day, but she's fine. So you know, I've heard people who in the church, in the Colac church, and their brother had COVID-19 or this heavy flu, and he took ivermectin and knocked it on the head. He's fine in a couple of hours. So the evidence is there.
What
that
was it
does
again?
work.
Sorry, brother.
Ivermectin.
Ivermectin. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
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 You're talking about
And
about the actual stuff for humans, or you're talking about the equine stuff for the horses?
Yeah. That's what they're saying it's for, but
Mhm.
it's a deception, brother, because
All
I
the
done research.
medication are made for humans, and when
Yeah.
there's no usage
Yeah.
in humans, they're moving to the animals,
To
dogs,
the animals.
cats, horses, whatever. So anything what they're making is for humans always. When you stop
Mm.
using, the hospital stop using. That's what the vet explained me a few years ago. When the hospital stop using, no one gonna use it. So move on to vets.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
healing them as well the same. Only the size have to be adjusted.
Yeah, man.
Just got to
Oh,
watch out.
whatever they
Stuff
say is dangerous for us, I would look into it.
Well, salty water, you know the stuff which they put in a drip 24/7 when you're in a hospital.
Saline.
When you concentrate that water, the sodium water, it's poison for you too. You will die from it.
Yeah, I could believe that. Mm.
Okay, so many things like this. They're using blood thinners